Here's an interesting but also very important fact is that 90% of today's thoughts that you're having are just recycled trash from yesterday, which means you're waking up and you're thinking about most of the things you thought about the day before. So when you can create a habit of a safe space, aka your journal, where you can do what I call a brain dump everything that is living in your brain onto paper. Girl, I don't care if it's a fucking to-do list. Just start writing it down. Most women that I connect with who struggle with fat loss or burnout or taking time for self-care are almost always dealing with an underlying problem in their life that they're avoiding. Welcome to Boss Bitch Radio. Today's episode is a bit different. This is 7 exercises that will help you lose weight that have absolutely nothing to do with the gym or your macros or your meal plan. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous recording this because it's very unconventional, but it is a conversation that needs to be had because working with women for almost 20 years, seeing the real underlying causes for their struggles have prompted me to speak up. And this is going to be more of a personal trainer bestie sitting to chat with you and have a conversation with you about some things that might be in your life right now, some things that you're struggling with. And this is just stuff that's on my heart. And I'm definitely challenging convention quite a bit. And this was inspired really by being a bit fed up with some of the content I'm seeing with some creators at this point. And so rather than be fed up and annoyed, I thought, well, I need to go in a little bit. I took a social media detox for a few days. I spent some time at Red Rock Canyon, which is my absolute favorite place to be here in Las Vegas. And I sat on a rock and I just poured out what is going to be now a 6-part series that you're either going to love or you're going to hate. So you might not expect some of these, but they're going to work better than anything you've probably tried. Some of the things I'm going to talk to you about today. And it is really my hope in bringing in sort of an iconic reclamation of sorts for the women that I get to touch through the podcast and my content. We'll be kicking off with this episode, but it is more of a 4-phase reclamation. And I have decided to scale back my podcast to 1 episode per week, really to be in alignment with what I'm going to share with you today. And the 4 phases are going to be regulate. The second one is going to be reconnect. The third one is redefine. And the fourth is reclaim. And there will be a bonus 5th episode. And this bonus episode, it might not be for you, but I'm hoping it is for you. But it's an episode that I hope you really take the time to actually listen to and proceed forward with. It is an iconic self, future you meditation. Who is she even? Yes. For those of you that don't know, I am certified yoga teacher. And one thing we did go through in the Baptiste certification is meditation and things of that sort. And that's been something I've been doing a lot lately. So I'm going to bring with my own personal flair to you for the 5th bonus episode. Well, it'll technically be the 6th, but you know what I mean. Now, before I jump in to these 7 exercises, I want to give you a bit of a disclaimer. I'm your personal trainer bestie. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a licensed mental health professional. I am basically the woman who listens to other women who come in for one thing, but they're actually needing a whole lot more. And it's essentially turned me into somewhat of a life coach unintentionally, but I'm not mad at it. And I've been a witness to some amazing transformations. And the things that I'm going to share with you today all come by way of experience of working with women and seeing that these things were sort of pillars that I challenged them and put in place for them throughout coaching them alongside the real reason why they sought me out, right? Their body goals. You know, I want a banging body. I want a better booty. I want to lose my muffin top. And working one-on-one with women and diving more into what they're truly struggling with and offering up suggestions and them trusting me, right? And listening and then coming back and sharing the changes they've made was evidence that I needed to share the deeper work that is going on in coaching besides the meal plans and the workouts, especially working with high performing women. I have recently opened up coaching And I'm working now with a handful of women that have come into my world. It's funny. I drop a podcast saying that I opened up coaching, and y'all are amazing. You found ways to find me and communicate with me in my DMs. And I know some of you who are listening are my devout listeners and now have turned clients. And so I'm grateful for you. But I'm stalling because, that's just what I do. Okay, the first exercise that I suggest you do if you are struggling with losing weight and finding that you start a program, stop a program, do a diet plan, fall off a diet plan, have a lot of other stressors in your life, but you think that the meal plan and the workout is going to be the thing that fixes all the things, is go to fucking therapy. End of episode. All right, we're done here. No, I'm just kidding. But really, go to therapy, okay? A lot of the women that I work with have some kind of unresolved emotional pain. They have stress that is insurmountable in their life, and a whole multitude of issues, right, that we face just as humans, but also as women moving through the world. A lot of times, these things, unresolved, tend to move women towards overeating, procrastination, low energy. The other reason why I say therapy is important is because there are some mindset hurdles that also get in the way of women that I work with. And listen, everything I'm sharing with you today, I have done or am doing or currently do. So these aren't things that I'm like, yeah, do this, but I don't do them. These are all things that I have used to transform my life. And I have found sharing with my clients have also moved them to make big changes in their lives. So if you tell yourself the story of, I can never get my old body back because it's too late, I have too many meetings, I don't know where to start, I'm too old, it's going to take away from my time spent earning money or being with my family, or I have mom guilt, right? I can't take away time from my kids and their activities. I can't tell you how many women I have worked with who, and I get this as a mom, having 3 children and having really focused on putting their needs before mine a lot of times in my life, many more times than I'd care to admit, is seeing women who are so adamant about making sure that their children have the best of everything. Okay. Everything they didn't have, everything they couldn't do. Hi, this is me. Put them in every sport, every activity, in piano, in cheer, in dance, in football, in soccer, right? And we move through life shuffling our kids to and fro, and we're irritated and we're jacked up on caffeine and we're just rushing them about, and we serve ourselves last. We're oftentimes not on our own to-do list, and we're avoiding our own work, or we justify spending money on the kids. But when it comes to investing in our own health and wellness or mental health, it's like, oh, I can't do that. That's too expensive, or I can't afford to do that. But we would be okay dropping a significant amount of money for things for our children. And this is something I've seen often, especially working in the studio with personal training clients and them coming through. And, it's an investment. It's definitely an investment, and it's an investment in your health. So that way you're not investing in paying for the sicknesses and illnesses in your future, right? That's what I firmly believe in. I'll stand on all 10, as the cool kids say. I'll stand on all 10 toes, and I'll say it with my chest. But with this first exercise, going to therapy, and how this all connects is asking yourself, have you ever really sat with a trained professional? Have you sat with them to share possible childhood traumas that you might be avoiding, or some relationship issues that are unresolved that you are struggling getting behind, right? Like you're not ready to face them. You're too stressed out about dealing with work, all these things. And all of this is all tied in together, right? Is having somebody who you can sit with that has your best interest in mind. What is the best case scenario for the person sitting in front of me, right? This is the therapist you're working with, and helping you tease out the steps you need to take and support you in that journey. It is such an underrated tool for you to get your health and hotness back on track. In fact, I have someone in my close circle that it's not a client, but it's somebody that I work closely with. And I noticed just in interactions that she was just a lot more, her energy was different. She was a lot more bubbly. She's just seemed a lot more positive outlook. And she shared with me that she had lost 10 pounds. She said, I had lost 10 pounds in the last 2 months. And I know that she had been doing a program and trying to really lose some weight and get healthy. And I looked at her and I said, well, what changed? Right? Because I'm so curious, right? I knew the program that she had went through and so on. And I said, well, what changed? And she says, I went to therapy. And I thought, yep, that's where you release all of the bullshit that you're carrying on your shoulders and your back, in your head, on your brain, on your body. And it's a game changer. It really is a game changer. All right, so I think you get what I'm saying. I don't want to belabor the point any longer. Number 2, the second exercise that you can do to lose weight that has nothing to do with the gym or your diet plan is to do less. Yes, just like I said at the top of the podcast, I will be doing less. I have been doing less actually for about the last 3 months as I've been really going internal to try to really excavate what it is I want my next chapter of my professional life and my personal life and my business life to look like. And it's so refreshing. Big exhale. Let's exhale together. Big inhale. Exhale. Doing less shit. Okay. Burnout oftentimes leads to weight gain. It's true. It's a fact. I see so many women, and we talked about this. If you didn't listen to the episode with Dr. Crystal, we'll link it up in the show notes about mental load. And I know that episode resonated with a lot of you guys. I know because I received several messages. When I receive several messages, that means there are more of you who just didn't message me. And if that's you, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time you reached out to your personal trainer bestie and told me how it's making you feel all the feels. Okay. So doing less, saying no is going to be another part of that, right? Saying no and really taking some internal stock of what it is you're doing. Maybe you don't need another gym session. Maybe you don't need another gym session because that's what you think is going to help you lose more weight. Maybe you don't need another cardio session. Maybe you don't need to cut more calories. Maybe you need less shit on your plate. How about that? Less things to do. An action step for you. Look at your schedule and what drains the fuck out of you. Look at your week. What in your week do you have scheduled? Maybe it's recurring or upcoming or whatever, that when you look at that, it makes you go, ugh, right? I don't want to do this. I'm not looking forward to this. There are certain things in life I know we can't get around, right? We got to go to the dentist. We got to go to the gynecologist. We got to go get a mammogram. I'm not talking that shit. I'm talking the things that when you look at them, the word that comes up is obligation. Obligation is such a gross word. Like, there's nothing I want living on my schedule that I feel obligated to do. If I don't want to go to a specific function or event or this or that, I just don't do it. And guess what? Life goes on. And when you can do less, it frees up more space, more energy, more time, more of just the energy of what you want to call into your life and who you want to be when you are doing less. When you do less, the things that you actually do, you do them better. The third exercise that I find helps women lose weight that has nothing to do with the gym ties very closely to the first one. And it's have the damn conversation already. My friends know that if they come to me and they're going to share certain things about their lives that they're unhappy with, right? Maybe their career, their partner, something with their family or their kids. They come to me because they want to know my feedback, right? And a lot of times when I have these conversations with my friends and or my clients, I ask them, do you want me to listen or do you want me to give you feedback? And then I give them feedback. And the way that I give them feedback is I don't say, you should do this. I say, if I were in your shoes, here's what I would do. Or I have been in that spot before, and here is what I have done. Because my brain naturally works as a problem solver. And I think it comes down to being a mom first and foremost, but then also being a business owner. And a lot of my day is spent putting out fires and solving problems. And so naturally in my personal life and my own problems, when something comes up, I don't have the desire or the energy for it to take up tons of mental real estate. I'm not interested in that. And so oftentimes there are conversations that are uncomfortable that need to be had. And avoidance equals mental clutter, okay? Avoiding the conversation, it literally sits on your shoulders like a ton of bricks, right? And then oftentimes the emotional clutter leads to emotional eating, or the mental clutter, and it can be emotional, leads to emotional eating. We're wondering why we're standing in the pantry and eating the pantry, because maybe there's a conversation you need to have with your manager or your boss, or maybe you are needing to have a conversation with your partner or your children. And it's difficult. Nobody likes to have these conversations that are going to be uncomfortable, right? Your armpits get sweaty, you have a visceral reaction, you start going down and thinking about all the worst case scenarios of what they might say or how they might feel. Here's what I invite you to do. Quit worrying about how you think they are going to feel, okay? When you speak your truth, and listen, there's an art to this. Okay. When I started making this a default, because I knew, I've spent thousands upon thousands of dollars in coaching and therapy at this point, but it was a little reckless at first because it wasn't something I was used to. I didn't grow up in a family where let's talk about our feelings and communication. No, I watched my mother be a volcano and my dad be an avoidant, and this is how I grew up. And so for me, it was relearning how to communicate as an adult. I didn't have these skills when I went into my marriage that ended up in divorce, right? There's so many things that we don't know because oftentimes we're not displayed this growing up, right? We don't see our parents interacting in this way. So it's really our job to do the work as adults so we don't repeat a lot of these behaviors in our relationships. And so for me, what I always suggest is sitting down and having that honest conversation and really understanding how to formulate that. And that might be a foreign concept. I don't know where to start. That's what I hear a lot of times with my clients. I will say that a lot of times, interestingly enough, a byproduct of clients working with me is they either end up strengthening their relationships or they move on. And sometimes that ends in separations or divorces because they're really finding their power. And I'm not suggesting this by any means, but I do feel that having the conversation and going to therapy are hand in hand, right? So the first thing, go to therapy. And that might be where you need the support from your therapist to help you formulate conversations that you need to have that you're avoiding. The best place to start is to ask yourself this question: who or what is causing me the most stress, and what needs to be said and or addressed? This is where I start, at least. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay. The fourth exercise, and you guys know that this was going to come up because you know how I feel about journaling, but journaling is a fantastic exercise in helping you lose weight finally, or get consistent, or get your health and wellness back on track. Here's an interesting, but also very important fact, is that 90% of today's thoughts that you're having are just recycled trash from yesterday, which means you're waking up and you're thinking about most of the things you thought about the day before. So when you can create a habit of a safe space, AKA your journal, where you can do what I call a brain dump everything that is living in your brain onto paper. Girl, I don't care if it's a fucking to-do list. Just start writing it down. All of those sticky notes that are flying around in your head, thinking about all of the mental load stuff that you carry along with the emotions and unresolved conversations, all of the things festering in there, that stuff will make you sick. That stuff will cause stress. It will cause these issues that you'll end up, again, overeating, binge eating, or some clients restrictive. They just don't eat. They lose their appetite. When you can clear out that mental real estate, it is going to give you such a calmer nervous system. And that is really where you can operate and make the best choices for yourself. So I ask you, and your question for this exercise is, when is the last time that you sat down and dumped all of your thoughts, your fears, your anxieties, and also your dreams and your hopes? When is the last time you did that? Maybe it's time. Okay, the fifth exercise, unconventional, that helps you in your health and hotness journey is asking for what you need. So I see this a lot. I see women who are resentful. Oh, my partner doesn't do this and he should know. If I had $1 for every woman that told me he should know, I'd be really filthy rich probably right now after 20 years, because they feel like their partners should know, their kids should know, their boss should know. This goes back to having the damn conversation, but also asking for what you need. I want you to start exercising this particular tip today. You can start today, as easy as right now. As soon as this podcast is done, I want you to think about the thing that you need, that you've been wanting to ask for help, but you're scared to ask for help, or you are afraid you're going to be told no. And I want you to text that person and ask for what you need. They cannot read your mind. This builds resentment. It builds resentment. There becomes a part of you that is guilty. It ends up in hormone dysregulation, oftentimes emotional eating, because we have these unfestering thoughts that are swirling. Now, I find that most women, they don't burn out because they do too much. Listen, we're badass bitches. We can handle a lot. I am the queen of multitasking if I need to be. It does not lead to burnout. They burn out from doing too many things alone. So who can you ask for help? I want you to think about that. Who can you ask for help? Assess your mental load. Think about the things that you do on the daily that you always feel like, oh man, I feel like I'm forgetting something, right? There's so much on the list. There's so many things I got to tackle in the day. I got to feed the cat. I got to do the laundry. I got to take the trash out. I got to do this. I got to do that, right? And on the interview with Almost Dr. Crystal, we discuss that, right? The mental load that us women carry. And I see that it comes out by way of binge eating or overeating or anxiety-ridden snacking. And I want you to think about who you can delegate some of that mental load to. But let me tell you, girlfriend, this is going to require you to relinquish some fucking control. I don't care if you want your towels folded a certain way, or the dishwasher loaded in a specific fashion, or that you need the pantry organized where all labels are facing outward. Teach someone else how you like it done so you can have some mental peace. When I started really asking for help, it started with the people in my household. And I hear oftentimes from women, oh, my kids, they won't do this or they won't do that, or they want to sit in front of the TV, or they want to play, Xbox all day or whatever. Girl, I have 3 kids. Trust me, I fucking get it. Okay. But also I want you to say, I pay the bills here, sweet little Jimmy or Cindy, whatever your children's names are. And it's less of it being a dictatorship and having a conversation with them about being a team. We're a team in this household. And in order for us to live without chaos and for mommy to be happy, I need your help. I need you to be part of the team. And here's what your role is. And give them some responsibility, right? I think we've made it really easy for children. I know myself, as I have went through some massive struggle as a young child and not wanting that ever for my children. And sometimes when we do this as parents, we enable them into really bad behaviors and set ourselves up for frustration in our homes. So who the hell do you need to ask for help and relinquish that control, my love? Okay, the 6th exercise is moving for the sake of joy and enjoyment. Now, I want you to lift heavy, okay? I want you to do your cardio because I want your heart healthy. And I want you to eat well because I want you to be here a long time. But besides the exercises that you need for your strong, resilient body, what movement really uplifts your soul, your energy, your mood, your spirit? Is there something you're missing? Take a moment and think back to a time when you weren't worried about anything external. You would do movement just because it was fun, right? Like, what's fun that's missing? Maybe it's getting outside and kicking a soccer ball. Maybe it's taking a Zumba class. Maybe it's going for a swim, riding a bike. I want you to do shit that's you're not doing just because it needs to live on your Apple Watch as a calorie burn. I want you to think about that. And this is a great place for you to journal. This is a great place for you to dream and think about the things that can be inserted into your day-to-day that don't need to be over the top, but can bring you joy. And it's not your traditional form of fitness. I'm going to tell you what, this is such an underrated tool, but it is so important. I've started pole dancing again once a week, and I am teaching at a local studio here in Las Vegas. So if you're in Las Vegas, please come see me. I'm teaching at 11th House. It is a fucking beautiful space for just embodying your inner baddie. I don't know. It's luxurious. It's velvety. It's smooth. It's beautiful. I just love it so much. And I missed it. So for those of you that maybe are new here, I taught pole dance for 10 years. That's actually how I'm even sitting here at this very moment. I started my business as a pole dancing studio. And I was missing that movement so much. This just tapping into my feminine side and my sensuality. And that might not be your cup of tea, but I'm going to tell you, it's a game changer. So what can you do not for the calorie burn? And I challenge you to do it this week. All right, the 7th one, and quite possibly the juiciest of all of these, is, are you ready? Drum roll, please. Addressing your coping mechanisms, particularly the unhealthy ones. So what does this look like? How does this show up for a lot of people? Doom scrolling. Doom scrolling, oh my gosh, living in everyone else's lives. That's what doom scrolling is. It's like, oh, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. Pick up your phone and look at the time that you spend scrolling social media. There's some time for you, babe. Okay. Doom scrolling. This is just putting you in everyone else's lives but your own. Mindless snacking. That's a coping mechanism for some people. Just mindlessly snacking. It's avoiding things that need to either be done or conversations that need to be had. Another big one I see, and I've had about 3 clients, new one-on-one clients, and this came up in our initial consultation over Zoom. It's always uncomfortable, but I don't care. I'm not here for comfort. Is drinking. How much are you drinking alcohol? I recently just onboarded a client who was drinking 10 to 20 drinks per week. And I can tell you right now, the conversation that we had for most of the hour initially onboarding her was not about what exercises and macros she needed to be focusing on. It was about not necessarily, hey, I need you to cut back your drinking. You know, can you work with 2 drinks per week? Because I'm not, again, it's not a dictatorship. When we're coaching together, it's a team effort. And so we're communicating. I need to know what's realistic for you. And alcohol is a part of a lot of people's lives for enjoyment, for pleasure, for fun, for socializing, right? But 10 to 20 drinks per week is not healthy. And so rather than me just saying, okay, well, can you just do 2 and then avoiding, well, why are you drinking 10 to 20 drinks per week? I'm a curious fucking coach. I need to know this shit because I need to know where I need to steer the ship for your unique plan, right? It's going to include some things that are going to make you uncomfortable, but we need to see why you feel the need to drink 10 to 20 drinks per week. If it is any of the things we've talked about today, I'm going to have you do these exercises to dive deep into the real root cause. Okay. And then also that comes up in by way of smoking or gossiping, anything in excess that tends to be a coping mechanism. So if any of this resonates for you, ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What am I avoiding? What am I avoiding? And there's no shame. No shame. Be honest with yourself. What am I avoiding that these coping mechanisms are numbing me from addressing? Ooh, this was a heavy episode. But if this resonated with you, honestly, your next step is just sitting with the questions in this episode, and it may require a revisit. I had someone reach out to me and tell me that they listened to the podcast I did, The Old Me Has to Die, which is probably, I don't know, we'll link it up. Stephanie, my podcast editor, is a badass. We're going to have Stephanie link that up in the show notes. But The Old Me Had to Die, I had someone reach out and told me they listened to that 3 times. So maybe you need to listen to this 3 times, because rather than pour your money into another fat loss program or PDF that you're going to buy off the internet, it's really, what is the deeper work that needs to be done? And choose one brave action this week from your brainstorming, one brave action, and integrate it. And remember, you're not just listening to these podcasts, you're leading yourself. This is the work that I am shifting more towards in my brand. And I'm very excited for that. Now, before we end this episode, I did promise you guys that we were going to pick a podcast winner. So if you haven't left a review over on iTunes or Spotify, I highly encourage you do that. I will be doing giveaways like this whenever I feel called to, intuitively and energetically. And this one just really hit home for me. So I'm going to share it with you right now. And if this was your review, then you, my friend, need to reach out and we will connect. My email, diane@bossbitchradio.com. Actually, any of you, if you want to chat with me, email me there. I answer every email. And we will have a one-on-one discovery call. So send me an email, and if you are the winner, I will email you a list of questions that I want you to answer before a call. And some of them have to do with your diet and nutrition, but some of them are a lot of what we talked about today, and some things about how you feel about your current body and mindset stuff, because it's really where the work needs to start, my friends. But this podcast review is from Muscle Mommy _at_6'1". And she says, listen from the beginning. You won't regret it. I have listened to every episode in about 4 to 5 months. I've yet to find another podcast I connect to, so I have restarted from the beginning. Such a wide variety of content, from motivation and mindset to after dark episodes. I have many thoughts of competing, but waves of doubt in myself are constant. I messaged Diane with my concerns about my height being 6'1". I was so shocked she sent me a voice message back. So motivating and real. Love her, love the podcast, love the message. Thank you so much, Diane. Well, thank you, Muscle Mommy, and I appreciate you. So reach out to me. Let's get on a call, because you're the winner for March. Now, let's wrap this up. If you feel called to move deeper, find the link wherever you're at, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. There'll be a link in the show notes likely. And this is your invitation to apply for the Iconic Coaching Academy. I'm taking 4 more clients. I know it's not very many, but I've recently been opening up to Instagram, and I have made a commitment to myself to only take on a specific amount of clients. Surely, for what I'm talking to you guys about today, is saying no to too much. So the link to apply for coaching will be there for you. And you can also find me on Instagram if you want to connect and have more questions. But this is where I'm going to leave you today. You are on a journey to become the most iconic version of yourself. And that starts by going within. I love you. Kisses to your forehead. And I'll talk to you on the next episode.